the prophesized one. Already while still alive, there were many tales written and sung about his tale. We don't know where the prophecy got started, but needless to say, it is all fallacy. But the man himself is a curious kind. There is definitely something different about him, and whatever his part may be in the greater scheme of things, at very least he started something larger. The new gods, when asked about Garde and his prophecy. There exists a man in the Fear and Hunger universe that many people in-universe strive to be like and admire. The man goes by many names. The Man of Prophecy, the Captain of the Midnight Sun, the Messiah, the Yellow King, the Kaiser. But the man's real name is what most know him by. The man is named Garde. Originally supposed to be a playable character in Fear and Hunger, he was instead made a party member, and someone very important in-universe. It's possible that the reason for this is that everyone wants to be like him, but no one can be him. Garde is a man of mystery and everybody is drawn to him. In fact, one of the first things you are told about in the first Fear and Hunger game is your goal. No matter who you play as, it is to find Garde. But who is Garde, you may ask? Well, I'm here to tell you everything we know about the man, the myth, the legend himself. Garde of the Midnight Sun. Garde was a commoner at birth. Someone destined for nothing. He was, however, someone who thought of himself destined for something greater. He eventually founded the Knights of the Midnight Sun, a mercenary group. He would find victory and fame throughout his career until eventually he caught the attention of the Kingdom of Rondon. Rondon originally had the idea of recruiting his mercenary band, but eventually felt it was too dangerous because of the faith that Garde's men had for him. You see, Garde is incredibly charismatic. Or as the kids say, he's got that riz. He is beautiful. Some people say that his beauty matches that of even the gods. He is slender with long red hair. He has some nearly otherworldly ability to attract people because of how charismatic he is. He's almost like a cult leader. Eventually, Garde heard of the prophecy that foretold of Garde's birth. One that said he was prophesied to become something amazing. This prophecy, of course, was not real. It's not a real prophecy made by someone who is clairvoyant or anything, it was just made up. Garde, claiming to not believe in prophecies, started to slowly believe the prophecy himself, thinking he was destined to be not a king, but a god. He had beliefs that he was destined for greatness before, but now he was sure he was meant to become a god. He started studying the occult and found out the real way to become a god. He found out about 700 years ago, 4 or 5 people went into a certain dungeon and found an ancient city. They became gods in doing so. Garde, thinking he could become an even greater god than them, found the key he needed to the city. The key was called the Cube of the Depths. He found out this cube was in a small town in Oldergard. Right before he raids the village, he sits down with Darcy and explains that he thinks that the prophecy about him is silly. Garde takes his prestigious Knights of the Midnight Sun and uncharacteristically brutally murders everyone in the village to find this cube. Rondon, using this opportunity, charged Garde for murder or something like that. I don't know exactly what they charged him with. I guess like 500 counts of murder or something. And throw him into a notoriously horrible dungeon. The Dungeon of Fear and Hunger. Something right before this, however, Garde was visited in a dream from a beautiful woman and conceived a child. In the dream. This beautiful woman turned out to be a new god named Nilvian. Her plan was to become impregnated by the Man of Prophecy to birth a child to extend her reign, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. In the Dungeon of Fear and Hunger, Garde is in the lowest part. Garde was put down here because of a high priestess's request, because of a torturer named Trotter was doing some vile things to Garde. Why the high priest cared so much about Garde staying alive is weird, but whatever, we don't know exactly why. When your character first reaches Garde, if he is alive, he will feign amnesia. This is fake to get his true goal of becoming the god that we will talk about here in a minute. This finally leads us to the events of the first Fear and Hunger game. 4 people enter the Dungeon of Fear and Hunger in search of Garde at nearly the same time. There is Kahara, a mercenary trying to help Garde for money. There is Enki, a dark priest who learned of the prophecy about Garde to find out more about him and the old gods, went in to search for this. Ragnvaldr, a man from the town that Garde pillaged for the Cube of the Depths, and he is seeking revenge. Then most importantly, Darcy, or Darce, I don't know how to pronounce it, a high-ranking soldier of Garde's Knights of the Midnight Sun. She's infatuated with him. Not like the other knights, though. She is genuinely in love and worships Garde. Now, obviously, you can play the game any way you want, and there are tons of endings that are non-canon. But I will be saying what we know for sure happens based on the events of Fear and Hunger 2. Firstly, someone takes the child of the new god of Nilvian and Garde to the depths of the dungeon, and she becomes the god of Fear and Hunger, making Garde technically the father of a god. Also, Garde lives through the entire events of the first game, ascending to godhood, but not in the way he wants. Garde is somehow killed before he can ascend. Then Darcy, who we've talked about earlier, finds a taboo spell used to raise the dead. She does this using her own blood and revives Garde, though he is not the same charismatic leader as he once was. He is now a bloodthirsty man and quite callous. He then ascends to godhood and dubs himself the Yellow King. It should be noted, however, in a non-canon ending, Garde doesn't die at all, and achieves godhood the way he wants, becoming the perfect being, the true King in Yellow. After which, he can be killed by the player, or the player can bow down to him and he will become almost like a messiah in the real world, uniting all the warring countries. However, this is non-canon. He does ascend, just not as the true Yellow King, but as a false imitation. Garde, now the false Yellow King, survives the events of the first game and goes to establish a new empire, the Bremen Empire, in which he starts to call himself something new yet again, the Kaiser. The Kaiser, after hundreds of years, starts to calm down. His goals become less conceited, and he once again tries to change the world. He attacks several other countries in the mid-1900s to establish a new god. Not one born of the golden throne of Mahabharata, the ancient city, but one born of humanity's collective effort, and human efforts alone. The machine god Logic. Once again, however, he succeeds, but not exactly in the way he wants, which is like his whole story. He gets what he wants always, but it's always some bastardization of what he really wants. Someone else becomes the machine god Logic, not him. However, him not being as egotistical as he once was isn't that upset by this. Before this fight happens, he also kills two of the Termina contestants, being Pab and August, both of which want to kill the Kaiser for their own reasons. After you fight Garde in the depths of the White Bunker, where the machine god is being born in Fear and Hunger 2, he will disappear. Not dead, but at least gone. This is the end of Garde's story for now. We don't know where he went, or if he'll even be in the next Fear and Hunger. He could be even the main villain again in Fear and Hunger 3. There are a few other things about Garde worth mentioning. Nostramus, an enlightened man who has been alive for hundreds of years, says that Garde's prophecy is not real, but interesting nonetheless. What he's doing he thinks is right, but it isn't just. But once again, what he's doing is interesting to Nostramus. Garde's philosophy is also interesting, and one thing I agree with, strangely enough. His whole ideals about why he is doing this is described right before the non-canon ending where he becomes the true Yellow King. Right before he ascends, Garde will say this: "In order to reach greater heights, to unify the land, to bring upon the new era, I need this power. The strength of kings and queens is not enough. I need more. Something that lasts beyond me." Do you think that any of the grand kingdoms history books speak of stand on pure foundations? They were all built on bloodshed and violence. What if there was a way that wouldn't require thousands of soldiers on opposing sides to shred their lives? What if such a grand kingdom only required one soul to succumb to the darkness? Only one soul to be tainted? This is saying that no matter what, people in power, or anything in power in general, is never built on good people. Every king, every kingdom, every power is always taken away from people unjustly. Garde says that if only one person has to be so evil that everyone else can be spared that evil, Garde will do just that. In my mind, this makes sense, but that's just my philosophy. Of course, everyone has different worldviews and opinions on Garde. Even Miro, the creator of Fear and Hunger, says that Garde is one of his favorite characters due to his tragic backstory. And he's one of my favorite characters too. Just a few things before the video ends as well. Garde is the only person in your party that you can control that will not be affected by the ill effects of the mind-controlling sword, Miasma, in Fear and Hunger 1. Maybe it's because he's unusually ambitious and mentally strong. Maybe it's because he has some sort of divine protection. We really don't know about that one. One last thing, Garde is obviously inspired by the character Griffith in the manga/anime series Berserk. If you've ever read or seen Berserk, you can see the obvious parallels here. Both Griffith and Garde were both born as commoners and are very charismatic. Both slip up one time and are captured and tortured because of it. Both become gods in some way. Miro has said that Garde is obviously inspired by Griffith. Griffith is also my favorite anime character of all time. I don't like him, I guess, but Griffith I think is the best written character of all time in anime and manga, so I might have some bias towards Garde. Garde doesn't seem as humanly evil as Griffith is, though. Anyways, I appreciate all the support I've been getting, and I love every single one of you. Yes, even you. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.